Pyongyang Street Circuit hosts the North Korean Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet, the Grand Marshal.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast, where we're going to be talking about the 2026 driver lineup. There are many channels that say they are the voice of F1, but today we're actually joined by, I think, the voice of F1, Josh Revell. So how are you, man? You good?
I appreciate still holding that title while I still can. It's really nice to still be called relevant. Doing okay. I've got a slew of video ideas that I want to produce, and as you could tell from how I'm looking right now, I'm losing the battle to actually finish them all on time.
The good thing is with YouTube,
as you guys can actually see, Jason, what's the time on your end?
It is 11 a.m. So it's a start.
11 a.m. It's 10. It's almost 11 p.m. in my case, and it's 6 a.m. for Josh. So first of all, thank you for actually being here.
What I don't understand is, like, that sounds like I planned the time for this, but I didn't. You did. So
yeah, I'm a night owl. So
okay. I was going to say this is all your fault.
Yeah.
So. Evidently, I'm one as well. So this time is really nice for me.
But yeah, so we're going to discuss the 2026 driver lineup predictions. Just a quick word before we start. Obviously, this is a new enough podcast. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. If you like the podcast, subscribe. If you don't like the podcast, subscribe to share it with more people who hate us, and give us a 5-star review on Spotify. I think that's the thing you have to do as a YouTuber out of the way. So let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, the thing is, you're going to get offended. There's going to be a lot of times where you want to tear your hair out. But that's the part of the blatantly biased experience. So hop on.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna start in reverse order of teams.
Okay, let's mix things up. By the way, since there are 10 teams,
11.
which I thought there were, but apparently there are 11. There's Cadillac as well, not to forget. So let's do it this way. Let's go 10th. First of all, let's talk about Cadillac. Then we'll go 10th, 1st, 9th, 2nd, and something like that. Just randomize things, because if we go in the basically in the you can say the championship order, it's going to be a bit boring.
So we're going in Indian order, which is to make things more complex than necessary.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, precisely.
Let's do this. Right.
Okay, so let's begin. From where should we begin? Cadillac?
Yeah, I guess that's the easy one, isn't it?
Yeah. Josh, who do you think is going to be at Cadillac?
Well, one of those seats is a lock, almost certainly for Colton Herta, because he's been touted as being part of this organization about as long as it's been alive as a project, even from back when it was the Andretti team. I still kind of suspect that Cadillac's acting as a bit of a Trojan horse for Andretti a bit. Because they'll get to Melbourne, it's just like, well, hey, we're actually Andretti. That would be something. I wouldn't say it would be the most insane thing to happen in Formula One, but it would be one of the most awesomest. Colton Herta almost certainly is going to be in there. I think he's got the super license points, and that will carry him on until 2026. So he's pretty good. He doesn't. He's not eligible, by the way. I think he still needs a few, which can be done if he does a few free practice sessions this season, and then he'll work. He needs the FP1 sessions straight up.
Apparently,
or is it the mileage?
Yeah.
So it's either the mileage or the
something
FP1
like
sessions,
that.
but
Apparently,
they're invested in him, though. But okay, let's say the scenario that they can't get him in. Let's hypothesize that Herta can't get in. The immediate replacement who they would certainly put in there is Pato O'Ward, because he has gotten the miles in FP1 sessions, or he's close to it. Thank you, McLaren. And, he's bound to get the super license points if he hasn't already, because he's always a front runner in IndyCar. He's got the talent for it. Apart from the Mexican market, he's popular in America as well. So, he acts as a favorite in that sort of way. I guess it's as close as you can get to a competent American Formula One driver, at least. They haven't had one since, the Italians of Eddie Cheever and Mario Andretti. So there's that. As for the second driver, they'll probably go for an experienced hand because that's all they'll need that going forward. Logic dictates that it should be Valtteri Bottas because he's a safe, secure pair of hands that, you know, he will hardly screw it up and he'll provide relevant, good feedback to the teams. If not that, if they're really, really wanting, you know, to sell caps and hats, then they may go for Checo. Or if they're desperate to beat Toyota and Renault in the Argentine market, they can go for Franco Colapinto. But no, that's how I see it right now. Colapinto and Bottas for 2026 for Andretti.
Wow. You went with Colapinto and Bottas. That's actually a very roundabout way of moving from Herta. Yeah.
Herta. Sorry. Okay. Herta and Bottas.
Herta and Bottas. Okay.
Herta and Bottas. Yeah. Jason?
I've gone for something similar, but I've gone for Herta and Perez. I think that given they've got a year ahead of them now, I think they're going to make sure that Herta gets those points. I think one of the main reasons behind that, and Award is a good choice as well, is that Andretti has kind of sacrificed a lot to get this team on the grid, including kind of almost just giving it up to Cadillac to get on. So I would not be surprised if kind of one of their favors in the back end is, look, one of the reasons for doing this was we wanted to get Herta into F1. So give us that at least for 2026. So I think they'll figure out a way to do that. Especially with McLaren there, they could easily get him in some FP1 sessions with McLaren. We know they're friendly, Andretti and Zach Brown. So I'm sure they could make that happen. As for the other seat, I'm going to say Perez. I do think they want to sell those caps and t-shirts, but also like he's a huge presence in North America. Mexico is in North America. Helmut Marko, if you're listening. So I think they're going to push for that. Bottas is a really interesting choice. I didn't expect that, and I kind of put Perez there for the same reasons you said about Bottas. But I think where Perez has over Bottas, even without the performance on track, is if you're looking for experience who's had experience at a top team recently, that's where Perez could help them, even if it's only a short-term gig. So that's why I would put him there. Whereas Bottas doesn't have that experience at the top team in this generation of cars. Even though it's a new generation, I'm aware, but you know, a closer fit than 2021. Casual?
Yeah. I sort of concur. For me, Colton Herta he seems like a shoe-in cause. Either ways, he was second in the second in IndyCar last season. So it's basically getting the mileage in. Once he gets that, he should be eligible. And if he is, I really don't see a reason why he won't be picked up. Second seat, yeah. Again, why I think Sergio Perez gets that seat and not Valtteri is, I think Valtteri is looking for a long-term project, and I'm not entirely sure Andretti will be willing to provide him a long-term project.
Interesting.
That's where I think there's going to be a slight, you can say, incongruence between the two of them. And that's where maybe I think Checo would be fine joining a project like Cadillac, because the entire North American market opens up. There's one issue. I'm not entirely sure Checo wants to come back to Formula 1. That's something that I think is an issue, because if he wanted to continue, I think the seat was open this season. He could have stuck around. There's no reason to think he would not have been picked up if he actually, showed some interest in other teams by mid-season. I don't think he did. He basically rejected all of them. In case he's not interested in coming back, I think Bottas gets the seat. But I think the priority will still go to Checo. That's
so
what
you're saying Mexicans are lazy. Right, got it. Just get that on the record.
Look, I am not living in Mexico. I can say anything I want about them.
Oh, yeah. Just on a couple of points.
It is called the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast.
Just on a couple of points there about Valtteri not being in a top team in this current generation of cars. He will. I know it's not the same as being in a race seat, but he is the reserve driver for Mercedes this year.
It's
which
a good point.
is kind of useless being the reserve driver in there, considering one of the seats is being filled by the most hyped rookie since virtually either Max or Lewis, and the other one's going to be the champion that year. So there's that. The other aspect, I forgot what I was going to say. This is annoying. With regards to Checo, so there is something that Caddy should consider here as well. Checo is the modern day Giancarlo Fisichella, which is that in top teams he struggled. I don't know why, he always did. Renault he struggled. Ferrari he struggled. But whenever he was in a crap car that couldn't turn corners, for some reason he was mustard. And we saw that. Like, his driving damn near put Jenson Button out of Formula One before his career really began. In the case of Fisichella.
Yeah.
Checo back in the Force India days,
Benetton.
Fissy for Benetton going on Renault in that awkward phase where they didn't know what they were. Checo in the Force India days, he dragged a fair few podiums out of cars that were marginal at best to get them, then had that great season in the pink Mercedes in 2020. So that's something to keep in mind, is that he'll bring the experience for sure, but he'll also be able to drag something out of cars that will not be great. And let's face it, in the first year that you're going to be in Formula One, you're not going to do gangbusters. I mean, Haas were the fifth best team in their first year, but they were able to hit the ground running with what they were doing. They basically just sort of nabbed parts off the Dallara shelf. Caddy won't be doing that. So it's something to consider. It's like, okay, you need that fine balance. You need someone who's going to be able to, extract the most out of the car, but not rely on it being, tippity top to do that. So, a range of things to consider there for Caddy. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. By the way, I think it's a slightly left field question, but 2026, out of Cadillac and Audi, which team comes out on top?
Oh, Jesus.
So, it's a race to the bottom, but still.
Yeah, I still think Audi.
You would hope so with the investment and the fact that they've already got a team. They're just changing,
Yes.
They're just changing the name effectively, in theory, on paper, but as well as that, this team is no longer going to be running out of basically whatever they got left in those chocolate boxes from the factory next door to their damn factory in what's the name of the town in Switzerland?
Hinwil.
The point is that they're going to have much more money now.
Hinwil.
And they can, Hinwil, and they can hit the ground running. Caddy have got to start all over again, even though they've been on this project for 2-3 years now. How long has that factory been built now? But then it's a new car
2
as
years.
well, and that shakes things up. So I don't know. Something? I'm gonna say Caddy, because this Audi project has been a freaking disaster from the very start. It sounds like it's out of left field.
By the way, you can abuse.
I know that. I know. The last few
You can use the
videos.
cuss words.
The last few videos. Do you think I've given a shit about the feelings of even the highest ranking people in the FIA? I know I burned bridges. I did that one video on the F1 channel for Formula 2. There's a reason I haven't been invited back on. So, yes. Okay, what was it? I'm sorry, people. This is what no sleep does to a white guy. Now, so Audi and Caddy are both going to have their challenges going into 2026. So it's a total coin flip. The other thing to think about here is that Haas came in, and I know they had a different scenario, but they did beat multiple teams in their first year. So, a team being established already in the championship isn't a guarantee.
They ran almost the Didn't they almost ran the previous year Ferrari? I mean, the car was so similar to what I think 2016 Ferrari or whatever it was.
2015. Yeah.
2015.
It was all off-the-shelf parts, I think it was.
Haas
Then again,
basically
Big Daddy
came back
Lawrence
a
said
lot
the
of
same thing
stuff
about the
from
damn
Ferrari.
Aston.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But either way, you know, it's a total coin flip, and I'll go for Andretti here.
I think the question for me is going to be... Okay. Yeah, I think the question for me is going to be how well does the Audi engine perform as well? Because realistically, you would assume that Cadillac in their first year may take a lot more customer parts from Ferrari just to get themselves running, and that could give them the advantage. So there is that side. Audi should, on paper, be better. But they have...
Who is the technical director at Andretti? Is it Pat Simmons?
I think so, isn't it?
I think it's him. I almost thought first that Otmar was going to be the team principal, but it's Graham Loudon. Graham Loudon is also fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, let's see how it actually works out. Anyways, so the brand new team of 2026 is out of the way. McLaren 2026 lineup. So just for the viewers, both Lando and Oscar have a contract that extends into 2026, so their contracts are not expiring. Josh, what do you expect the lineup for McLaren in 2026?
Lando and Oscar. No reason to change it. I'm done.
Jason?
This is going to be funny then. Norris and Sainz. I have a reason for this. My reason for this is I think we're going to go into 2025. I think that McLaren should have a car to fight for the title. I think they will easily fight for the constructors, and I then think that Norris will continue to up his game slightly. Piastri will be on flying form, and I think having two number one drivers at teams is always a problem. And where Toto Wolff and others can manage that, I'm not quite sure that Andrea Stella and Zach Brown can manage two number ones. And I could see it falling apart. And I imagine in that situation that it will be Piastri who will go. However, I am not saying Piastri will go to a worse place. I'm just saying he will go. This is going to be wrong, but I needed to have something a bit left field. So this is what I've gone with.
Yeah, for me, you know, even I initially thought that maybe there is room for conflict between McLaren, between Oscar and Lando, but I was just going through, the Max versus Daniel rivalry, and there's one thing that stands out between, I think it's every highly rated driver you take a look at, be it Max, be it Lewis, be it Seb, when earlier in his career, Alonso, Charles, George, the pace is there, the consistency and the mistakes are something that they have to, you know, get rid of the mistakes and be more consistent, develop a few things. How many races in the last couple of years we can say that Oscar has definitively beaten Lando in terms of pure performance, where Lando has been truly humbled? How many times can you say that?
You are aware there's an Australian on the podcast, right?
He's a Kiwi.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm so sorry. That is the most offensive thing I could have ever said.
Greater insult to a human being than calling a New Zealander an Australian. Do you know how much of a stink we put up when they put the Australian flag on Brendan Hartley? And he is one of our worst Formula 1 drivers of all time. We weren't going to stand for that shit. So,
But in my defense, I am tainted by a ton of people calling me British in the comments, and that is very
fair
offensive
enough.
to an Irish person.
We are kindred spirits in that regard, aren't we?
My apologies, sir.
I'm not even going to say what I get referred to. Anyways,
And that's just on this podcast.
Anyways, so yeah, I am slightly worried that maybe this is the ceiling in terms of performance for Oscar. As in, he will get more consistent. He might find a 10th or 2 there. The biggest issue for Oscar in the last season was he reached decent peaks, but he wasn't consistent enough.
Yeah.
I just think his peaks are not as high as Lando's. I just think that maybe that's the case because in the last couple of years, I've not seen that many weekends where it's like this. Oscar has clicked and Lando cannot keep up with him. There aren't that many weekends where this has happened, and I just feel that the hierarchy will be developed where Lando would be. It might be a bit of a case of Mika and DC, where again there will be weekends where DC was better than Mika, but Mika was the lead driver. And I think when that happens, I don't think there's any reason to tinker with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Piastri still has a lot more to grow, and I think that's what we're going to see in 2025. I think Lando is out and out just faster in terms of just raw pace, but I don't think there's a huge difference between them. And I think where they'll clash is that Oscar has that kind of instinct, that natural kind of aggressive instinct. And I think if he can just get a little bit closer to Norris in terms of pace, there's not a huge amount between them. I think even if you look at Lando destroyed him on head-to-heads in qualifying, but I think the average was still only like a tenth. So there's not like a huge amount to grow there. And in races, Piastri was spectacular. So that's where I think they'll butt heads, but we'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll see.
Just getting on to the form thing here, nothing about Piastri's inconsistencies last year made sense because his temperament and the way he goes about racing, you would think that would lend to consistency above everything else, because what he reminds me of is Scott Dixon. And Scott Dixon's a dude who, he's not quite as fast as what he used to be, and even then he wasn't the fastest guy. What he was a dude who would just fucking find ways to get himself into a race win scenario. Like every year, he was not the fastest driver over the last 5 or 6 years. And Palou was the better driver in terms of outright pace at Chip Ganassi. However, there'll be times where he would like start from 17th and then 5 laps from the end. It's like, oh, he's got more fuel and he's charging in on the leaders. It's like, how the hell are you doing this again, old man? And Piastri has the exact same sort of qualities, I feel, in that you can rely on this guy to extract things all the time, and he's got a cool head. He never really loses it. So it made no sense that he had such a wayward year. And on the other side of the equation, we look at Lando. And remember the first couple of years that he was in the game, there were doubts about him because he had his own problems going on. So drivers develop over time. I do not understand why people judge immediately. It's like, give them time already, will you? Like, give them a year to develop. If they make mistakes, they make mistakes. With the ban on testing and everything, it's a miracle these guys can even get out of the pit lane without stalling. And the other aspect of it all, which I've just totally forgotten because my mind is too frickin' tired. The other aspect of it all is that Lando talked about next year's our year. Well, dude, these years don't come around a lot. That's why I was so pissed at the amount of opportunities that he squandered last year. It's like, this may have been your only chance. This may have been your 1985 Michele Alboreto. These next few years, you could be in no man's land. We don't know for sure, but that's why you got to take the opportunities while you can. When Piastri was on it last year, he was better by quite a bit. So that's why I'm erring on the side of caution with Piastri, and it's like, I don't know. He could have just been having an off year in the same way that Lando in his formative years wasn't on Sainz's level. And, people were questioning him over that. So, yeah, there's quite a lot of layers to go to this. At the same time, I can't see there being too much to go. Like, a lot would have to go wrong this year for them to be like, I can't live with this other guy. And in that respect, you got two extremely strong drivers and they're both in a car that can challenge for a title now, they're both smart enough to know they can't just leave that. Go to Red Bull. Oh, yeah? Against him? Be careful what you wish for, sonny boy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'll see. The thing is, for me, what's kind of sticks out is how many times, as I said, how many weekends can you pinpoint where you can say that Oscar destroyed Lando in the last couple of years? That's for me, the peak should be where he kind of stamps his authority over Lando. I can't see
Josh. 6.
How many?
6 times. 6 times.
6 weekends.
Yeah,
Okay.
This framing is awkward. I've got this camera as far back as possible, and this fucking thing will not format right. So, me and my damn gorilla hands are not getting inside the frame here.
This podcast is not sponsored by
6.
Riverside.
Jesus.
Yeah.
6 times over the last couple of years where Piastri was
All right.
definitively, no doubt, better. Done.
Which race?
The ones he was better in.
Casual, stop being such a Lando fanboy.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to the next one, by the way, Audi.
Sauber Audi. Yeah.
Audi. Let's call it Audi, not Saudi. Yeah.
Saudi.
Anyways, yeah. So Audi, Josh, I think what's the lineup you think is going to be there?
They'll retain the drivers that they've got contracted. So Nico Hülkenberg and Enrique Bernaldi Jr., also known as Gabriel Bortoleto. And Bortoleto will be out of a seat after basically having the same sort of career as Bernaldi, where it's like not given the platform to really demonstrate his worth, and smoldering in the ashes of midness, which again brings us all back to a point where for some reason some guys make it in F1, some drivers just don't.
Jason?
Yeah, I said the same thing earlier this season. We were talking about any driver going to Sauber, I think, is a death sentence, regardless of how good they are. I have maintained the same Hülkenberg and Bortoleto, the reason simply being that after 2025 and how that will go for Sauber, I don't think any other drivers are going to want to touch that seat with a 10-foot pole. And I think Hülkenberg and Bortoleto are going to hold on to it because they're going to hope that Audi, when it becomes Audi, turns it around, which it won't, but that's what they're going to hope. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the same. There's really no reason to, shuffle things up. They'll just spend, I think, mostly... Again, the second half of 2024 was somewhat better, where I think Joe scored points, Bottas almost did. So there is maybe some sign of improvement. Again, so we did an interview with Mattia Binotto, and something he revealed was that since 2023 until he joined, that's around the 18-month period, the team was almost frozen in terms of nothing financially was coming in. Everything was in a bit of a limbo, and the preparation was for 2026. And when he came in, he saw how the whole thing was happening, and then he started pumping in resources. Apparently the whole plan from Audi was that the entire focus was going to be on 2026, and that seems to have backfired because the team it's stagnated to a large extent. I mean, in 2022, earlier it was still, when it was Alfa Romeo, it was still decent, right? I think Bottas scored a P4, P5 or something in Barcelona.
They were quite good at the first half of 2024.
Yeah.
Or 2022, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. And from there, it has just pretty much gone downhill, and I think it was around that time that the Audi announcement came. So maybe there is scope for improvement, because look, financial resources make a difference. Maybe they would. I don't know exactly. But at least, for now, they won't rock the boat. There's no sense.
The key problem, as always, and I said this earlier in the year when there was the whole Jos, Marco and Horner issues going on, is that the worst thing that could happen to Red Bull is the problem that Audi has had, which is you cannot run an F1 team from a boardroom, We've seen this time and time and time and time again.
Yep.
And Matteo Binotto hopefully has come in and told them that and said, look, you just need to give us the resources and let us work with it. If you try and control things from the boardroom and plan things as if it's a quarterly review, your team is going to stagnate forever and then fall off the grid. So that's their only hope. If Red Bull had gone to Austrian board control, they never would have recovered this year either. So, it's just the way F1 is.
True. Next up, Ferrari. Okay, now, Josh, what do you think? What will be the lineup at Ferrari?
McLaren, Lewis. Boring, isn't it?
Okay, first, Jason, go ahead. What do you think your lineup is?
Look, Leclerc and Lewis. Look, at the end of the day, even though I think 2025 is going to make Lewis look like Seb and Ricciardo in 2014, I think that there's just no reason why Lewis, one, would move, and two, no reason why Charles would go at this point or Ferrari would replace them at this point. Because even, 2025, they could be in for a title fight. I mean, they finished 2024 strongly. And in that case, Charles and Lewis would be stupid to kind of throw it away going into new regulation sets anyway. So I just from either side, I don't see the point in changing, no matter how 2025 goes for any side of the party.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, what do you guys think about the intra-team rivalry? How do you think that will actually pan out? Josh?
I really don't think there will be much of anything here. In fact, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be in for a rude awakening in any way, shape, or form, because there are going to be... I think there's a lot of people split between two camps here. There are those that think that Lewis is going to humiliate Charles, which, that's quite a big thing to say. Equally big thing to say is that this could be the partnership that retires Lewis. And the thing is that Lewis ain't a spring chicken anymore. And as much as I've loved watching him growing up, and anyone with a brain knows how good he is. Like, if you don't like him, that's one thing, but you've got to, appreciate greatness when it's there with you. Having said that, he's not immortal. He is a human being like every other sports person in the world. Every single one of them, no matter how great they are, has their decline. And I'm not buying into some of the excuses that were dished out over the last 2-3 years now. It's like, if you need everything to be perfect to win even the teammate battle, you're going to the wrong fucking team to get that. You're going to Ferrari, a team that, Mercedes fans have bitched and moaned about the strategy calls. You're going to Italy. Like, this isn't gonna get any fucking better. You go to Italy for food, history, and the sights. You don't go there for strategic masterpieces. So they're in for a rude awakening if that's what they're expecting. And what's more, he's going to be going up against a dude who I regard as being a born-again Gilles Villeneuve, only slightly less crazy. So he's going to be up against a lot. And if not everything is to his liking, it could be the thing that says, well, I don't need to do this anymore. Like, do I really need that 8th championship to prove I'm any greater? No. Like, stats are weird in Formula 1. What's more, he has been with Mercedes in some capacity since 1998. He's now going to about the most polar opposite environment you could possibly get. That is a leap, and it's not going to necessarily translate fully. And even if it did, he's not coming from a great place in Mercedes. So there's some uncomfortable truths in this Ferrari-Lewis partnership that some people will not acknowledge in the same way that people weren't acknowledging it when Seb went to Aston Martin. It's like, this will not be a fairy tale like you want it to be, but the potential is there if all the right pieces fell into place, though that's going to take a lot to happen. So here's something out of left field, considering it's 2026. 2026, Lewis will retire at the end of the year, but he will retire having won 2 races for the Scuderia. I don't know where they'll be, but he will retire with 107 race wins, 7 championships, 11 million pole positions and podiums.
Wait a minute. You're telling me I'd say he'll win at least 2 races this season. He'll win more than that. I mean,
that's provided Ferrari are on top of their game.
A driver of his caliber.
Fanboy.
Yeah, that's a big question, honestly. I mean, it could easily be 0, honestly, because Ferrari, they're changing the suspension again. Why they're reinventing the wheel, I really don't understand. But if the car is as competitive as it was last season, Lewis will win a few races. I really don't doubt that.
Well, that's down to whether or not the car's going to be there or thereabouts. But in that regard, how many would Leclerc win? How many would they overall win? Like, there's a lot of unknowns going into it. This is all just guesswork. But I'm also taking, inventory of classic examples where former champions would go to teams looking for redemption, and a lot of times it crumbled, fizzled out, and died a pathetic death. It won't quite be that way with Lewis, because, I mean, like, it's not quite the same as Seb going to Aston Martin here, and it's freaking Lewis. But every story has a full stop on the sentence, and so it seems like the right time for Lewis. And if he can go out having won a couple of races for the Scuderia, and that's a realistic goal to have, then he's accomplished. Like, seriously, I don't really know how you can get as better a career, because no one has achieved it, than what he's done. So, taken in the stride, it's better than, him just up and leaving at the end of this year, going out like Jody Scheckter, where you win the world championship one year and then you can't qualify the car the next year. So, yeah. It's a big, bold claim, but to be honest with you, when it comes to this whole scenario, like, any prediction is way out there when you think about it. Everything's going to draw the ire of people.
Precisely.
I am just a couple of things on Ferrari. There's a couple of facts here as well about Ferrari, which is, one, when you're a rich man in your 40s, you only go to Italy for one thing, and that's to retire. So let's just put that out there. The second thing is that Ferrari have killed a lot of hopes of world champions over the past 15, 20 years. And the final thing on it is Ferrari are very short-term in their thinking a lot of the times, and there's one thing that Ferrari have constantly built on, and that's momentum. And I think that's going to work against Hamilton at the moment, because he has a lot to deal with coming into Ferrari. He has a lot to build on coming into Ferrari. And we know that over the course of his career, he has constantly had kind of slow starts to things, built up and so on. And that doesn't work at Ferrari, who kind of build on a momentum. And if he goes in and has that slow start, and Charles is having a very good start to the season, if they do have a good car, Ferrari are going to do what Ferrari does, which is just put everything behind Charles for the rest of the season. And look, I think Josh touched on one thing there, which is, and I agree with it, the simple fact is George has been the better driver over the last 3 years, and whether that's George coming up or whether that's Lewis coming down, he's going to have to go into Ferrari and give it everything to even have a chance at beating Charles. over the next couple of years. And do I think he'll have a couple of wins in Ferrari? Absolutely. I think like Ferrari or Lewis still has high peaks and Ferrari seems to be doing well. So in 2025, he could get there. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be, I think this will be a nice ending to his career, but I think it's going to be anything but a fairy tale ending, honestly.
So that's your bold view. And I'm kind of going on a different level when it comes to bold in that
look,
case.
You've already talked about Norris and Hamilton. What we've learned is you are still a colonist.
Jeez, no. Anyways, so in my view, I think the 2026 Ferrari lineup is going to be Charles Leclerc and Ollie Bearman.
One season? You think it's going to be one season?
Yeah, so the problem is what 2024 showed us was that a lot of times what happened was Mercedes was the sole fourth fastest car, and what that meant was the gap between Lewis and George in terms of qualifying, it wasn't much, and more often than not the two used to converge. What's going to happen in races in 2025 is if Lewis does not get on top of qualifying, the problem is he has the best qualifier in the other car, and the gap is going to be there. Once that gap is there and Ferrari is going to, again, I'm assuming, unless Ferrari fucks things up every time, I'm assuming Ferrari, McLaren, they're probably going to be at the front, and hopefully Red Bull and Mercedes will be nearby. When that's the case, it just might be the case that while Charles is at the front, he's contesting for wins and podiums and everything, Lewis might fall back, and there might be a scenario in the season, as the season progresses, where Lewis has to play the number 2 driver role. He has to be the supporting cast. Whether he does it voluntarily or he's pushed to. The thing is, for someone who's been the alpha for 17 years now? 17, 18 years? He's not there to do that role. And at some point, I mean, even in his interviews, he's said that self-doubt does creep in, and it's been 3 years since he's competed for a title. I just think that basically this season will be a confirmation for what happened in 2024, and once that happens, I think he'll just back up. He doesn't need the money. He has, I mean, we know he has a lot of it. He's basically buying KTM apparently. Once you have that kind of money, it's just, what's the point? You're just ruining your legacy, and I don't think he wants to be a sidekick at Ferrari. That's probably the worst place to be that. And I think after 2025, probably by the end of the season, he's going to call it a day. And once he does, Ferrari ideally would want to scramble for Carlos, because Carlos ended the partnership on a pretty nice terms. But Carlos would be occupied somewhere else. So what is going to happen is Ferrari is going to pick the young driver after Charles Leclerc, one of the brighter talents, and slot Ollie Bearman in the second seat. It's 100% going to be wrong. Lewis is not going anywhere. But it's fun to think about it,
Anything else on Ferrari before we move on to Williams?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I agree with what you said about the bear going in, like replacing Lewis. Like, everything points toward that happening. He is, the guy that they brought up. There's no one in the Ferrari driver academy right now in the immediate ranks who can take that place. Like, I mean, you talk about potentially going back to Carlos. I think the problem I've always had with Carlos being in Ferrari was that he adopted, rightfully so, the whole, it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's the right mentality to have, but when he was, considering the fact that he was never always, and most of the time he was never on Charles's level, it would create awkward scenarios where it's just like, if Charles had a dungeon bitch, let's say Italian Jesus, who I thought they should have hired in the first place, in which case you can whip that boy and, go back to the good old Ferrari days where it was run like a damn dictatorship. Then you would have had no problem about a certain Ferrari being up the front. But you had awkward scenarios where Carlos was meddling and he would get his results rightly so. I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying it made things awkward for Ferrari. Would you get that with the Bear? Maybe. It's not a certainty, but you can judge how he does in his 2 years at Haas. You would get that with Carlos. At the same time, they're pretty harmonious in their relationships, and you can guarantee that if one of them wasn't performing, the other one certainly would. So there's that push and pull. Do you want to go for the future, or do you want to go with a proven quantity in, arguably, a lineup which has been downgraded somehow by bringing in Lewis? It's blasphemy to say that, but Ferrari did not need to use that lineup. So, yeah, it's this whole.
We say that all the time. By the way, it's nice to hear you say that as well.
It's just such an awkward thing to talk about. I mean, there's going to be people who are going to take this the wrong way. Like, look, seriously, guys. If stats define how your outlook on Lewis, you need to just watch his 2007, 2008 season, 2007 specifically. That defines why he's one of the greatest of all time, the greatest of his era. I don't think there is a GOAT, but you can easily make an argument on that season alone. No, just on the drives that he did. So don't get too caught up in stats. He doesn't need to win any more anything. This Ferrari drive, however long it's going to be, is not going to define him. I'm going to end this tangent now because I'm starting to lose track of everything.
I think the people who watch this podcast who are thinking to themselves, well, I got through Jason and Casual bashing Hamilton in their top 10 list last week. At least this one will be nice. We'll probably be very annoyed now. Anyway, let's move on to Williams.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start or you start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm gonna say Colapinto and Albon. Obviously, I've already moved Sainz to
some other
McLaren. He's already gone there.
Yeah.
After Norris loses a title to Max, Piastri leaves, and McLaren falls apart, that is exactly when Sainz will go there. So I'm going to say Colapinto and Albon. I think Albon, where else is he going to go realistically at the moment? And Colapinto is obviously, he's proven that he can do a job there. So I think for Williams for 2026, that makes sense. And any bigger driver from any other top team, I mean, realistically, you're taking a punt on Williams, even though James Vell says they'll be fighting for a title in 2026.
He convinces me every time. Every time I hear him. He's the only person who could say that about Williams that I could listen to with a straight face. If anyone else said that, I would be like, shut the fuck up. But when Vell says it, I'm like, maybe. Yeah. I think it was on Beyond the Grid, his latest interview where he said, look, even if we've won a couple of races in 2025, I'm still going to shut it down. I'm still going to focus on 2026. And he said that with a straight face. Williams has not won a race since Pastor Maldonado won in 2012. Yeah. So, I love your confidence, James. But yeah, let's see.
He's the only person I would believe.
Yeah.
Williams. You know what? Signs will be there, 100%. Something's telling me Albon won't, but something's going to have to happen, which I'm just not seeing right now. Like, it's just this weird thing I've got in my head that's saying Albon won't be there, and that Colapinto would be in there. And if it was up to me, Colapinto would be in there 100% because I believed in that fucking guy since I saw him race here in this country in 2020, and he was damn nearly winning the championship in the worst team, beating Yuki Tsunoda, damn nearly beat Liam Lawson for the championship and the New Zealand Grand Prix. Did I say he was with the worst team as well? I tell you, man, I will found a religion on this fucking guy. But having said that, there's no room for him to go in Williams right now. So it's because Albon's there and they're not going to get rid of Sainz. But the great cheat, Flavio Briatore, has got very high praise on him. And they seem to be making it abundantly clear that Jack Doohan's only contracted for 5 races. Like, it seems as if they really want to get rid of Doohan. So, and if that happens, Alpine may be saying, oh, you know what, can we keep Colopin too? Spoiler alert for the Alpine driver lineup. But yeah, in that regard, Williams will remain unchanged for 2026. How there will be for 2027, I don't know. But, as well as that, Albon being in that team could really depend upon how he, copes in 2025. Because if he goes around and disassembles his Williams all over the shop, then they may be saying, well, sorry, but that's South American money. Oh, yeah, we can do with some of that. So, kakite no. Franco, you're in. You're in alongside Carlos for 2026. I don't know. It's one of those scenarios where Williams have got a sweet deal here. We know how damn good Franco is, but we also know how good Carlos and Alex are. They got 3 very damn good drivers. They got Luke Browning on the way, so they got drivers. Yeah. They just need to make sure that they got a car that can handle it. So hopefully Val's promise of 2026 rings true, and that it's not just a fugazi like it has been in recent years.
I think that's what worries me as well, because maybe it's all fool's gold from him. It could be, because there's been a lot of it. There's been a lot of it. Every time you hear him, the way he talks about things, it's a bit like, mate, you're bullshitting, right? At some point you're bullshitting. But, one thing that kind of stands clear is, how much I've seen of James, I doubt that he'll let Colopin to slip from his fingers. He's the way he negotiated with Red Bull, it seems like unless he gets a very hefty value, he's not going to let him go. That's quite clear. And on the other hand, I think Carlos Sainz is going to move on to a different team. Which team that is, I'll tell it a bit later. I think the lineup is going to be Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto. One of the reasons behind it as well is that Carlos has a contract which has basically an exit clause in every year, or when particular team calls up, he can just go. Apparently, that's what Flavio said. So if that is the case, he already has one foot out of the team, and I think we might be in for a turbulent season, and if that is the case, opportunities might open up. So yeah, I think Alex Albon and Logan Sargent seems to be the lineup. Yeah.
So next up is third in the Drivers' Championship, which if you... Oh, sorry.
Did you say Sargent? I swear you said Logan Sargent.
Did I say Sargent?
We play that shit, people.
Not Sargent.
Good. The right side of the Americas. Good boy.
Yeah. Okay, next up, Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Yeah, Josh, your favorite driver, I guess.
Who, Max?
Go for it.
Oh, this whole nationalism bullshit. I love my flag. I just don't like the drivers that come from it. Right, so Max, because why not? Like, as long as he's content there, he'll stay there. And they'll never get rid of him. No one who's in possession of him would get rid of him at this stage anyway. As for the second seat, who did I put in here? Yep, cool. Surprise, surprise, Liam Lawson. However, there's a caveat to this. Mid-season, about 6-7 races in, he's going to be replaced by Isaac Hadjar. The reason I say that is because Isaac Hadjar has got the same sort of thing going about him as Pierre Gasly, in which case he's going to do very well in the AlphaTauri, Minardi, whatever the hell they're going to call it this season. He's going to do very well there in 2025. Liam's going to have his good moments as well, but 2026 new car, he could end up struggling a bit. We know how Marco is, and has a twitch, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I want this guy. So he likes Hadjar a lot, for sure, and he'll want to use him. There's also going to be that whole sort of, preparing for when Max eventually leaves, because whether he leaves to another team or retires, he's not going to be here for long, so we need to prepare for the future. And yeah, I just see that mid-season change happening quite soon, in 2026 mid-season, and it will end up being the wrong choice because, you're expecting immediate results out of these guys, which, again, makes no goddamn sense to me. So, yeah, Max and Liam to start the season. Mid-season, Liam will be replaced by Isaac Hadjar, with mixed results from both of them. People questioning for the 8 billionth time why they do this when there's no marketable increase in results, and all you do is throw your team into disarray. Red Bull management program, people. Total mess.
Jason?
I've gone very left of field. So, I am going to say it's going to be Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri, who has left McLaren. Few fun reasons behind this. I'm going to say that Max Verstappen just about clinches the title in 2025 because I reckon that McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes will all be about as stable as a boat in a storm, and they'll be all over the place, infighting between their drivers, taking points off each other, weird development choices, and Max will essentially just kind of cruise along, taking points at every weekend and just clinch the title. And then in 2025 or 2026, he is going to have a Sebastian Vettel season where he's beaten by an Australian who, interestingly, is managed by Mark Webber at his own team in 2026, at which point he leaves and goes and wins a title at Ferrari just to piss off Lewis Hamilton fans for one last time. That last part I just made up on the fly, but it could happen. This is F1.
Yeah, it could. I thought about, obviously it won't. I thought about the option of Oscar Piastri, but I just, again, something Josh mentioned earlier. You want to be teammates with Max. I mean, have you been hit in the head or something? I mean, that's the only reason you'll actually make that choice. Especially because Red Bull currently the car is a handful, and McLaren is a better handling car. So yeah,
it's not going to happen. But when my list came out first, it was boring, so I changed it.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Josh, how highly do you rate Isaac Hadjar?
I think he's got a lot of potential in terms of his speed. His problem is that the moment something goes even slightly wrong, he becomes violently French and just totally loses the plot. And that's why it's like when he's under no pressure at all, when he's going to be a V-carb, he's going to be fantastic. And this is something that people aren't going to like as well. He's really going to make Yuki look pretty damn ordinary in a lot of places this year. But there's not much weight of expectation when you're in that seat. There's a lot of stuff that Yuki's going to be wanting to prove this year. Isaac has got one quest only, and that's just learn as fast as you can and just go as fast as you can. And he's going to prove his worth in the same way that Gasly did. When he came in, he was fantastic. But then he went to the pressure cooker and he melted from the inside out. And there are cases where that happens in Formula One. I think Liam's much more headstrong than a lot of other drivers that have come through the Red Bull system, which that's a low bar. Doesn't even require the effort of jumping. And I think he'll have good moments this year, Liam. I know what he's going to... I can see it in my head what's going to happen in some races this year. Although that could just be, that could just be sort of delusions after working for 30 hours straight. But, I don't think it's going to be a walkover like some people are wanting it to be. I find it weird that people want him to fail. It's like, okay, like, weird, but alright.
But why?
But I think Liam will have some good moments this year. He'll have some good moments this year, but at the same time, things can change rapidly in this Red Bull program. We know that above everyone else. And I see that happening with Liam as well. Red Bull tend to gravitate toward the flavor of the month quite often. They see some good performances and they're like, oh, we'll go for that. That's what they did when they pissed around with Nick de Vries in 2023. If they just stuck to their guns, trusted in their juniors, they would have had 2 years where Yuki and Liam would have been up against each other fairly. No bullshit. You would have known what they would have done. They've had 2 years as teammates in junior formula. Liam beat him both times quite convincingly, but there's a big difference between junior formula and Formula 1. That's why I don't wholly stick to those guns. And you would have had those 2 years, but instead all you've had is one guy with 4 years experience and total testing of the cars and everything you need to happen, and one dude who was just thrown in for a few weekends while the honey badger was off with freaking wanker's cramp, and you're all of a sudden just fucking judging these two totally polar different opposite scenarios and treating them as exactly the same. That's why I was slightly pissy about, the whole Yuki Liam thing. It's like, Yuki deserved the shot, but Liam's got a lot of prospects here, and people are very fucking weird about wanting him to fail. So, I've just gone from talking about how I think about Hadjar to going on a tangent about Liam Lawson. So, bringing everything back together here for a moment.
Yeah.
Liam's prospects are pretty good, but he's going into the lion's den here. The moment he slips outside the expectations expected of him, Red Bull are going to be looking for an answer, and they're going to look for that in their junior team. And every time they've done that, they think they've found their golden ticket, they put him in, and it doesn't work. Which, surprise, surprise, who'd have thunk? Knee-jerk reactions don't work in this sport. So, yeah, I think I've had a similar sense to Liam Lawson, but in different areas where a lot of potential, it needs to be managed. The areas of improvement need to be identified and worked on, or else, we're going to have another casualty in their whole Red Bull ward, and they're going to go into 2027 and going to be like, oh, okay, well, we'll just have Arvid Lindblad then. Wash, rinse, repeat. Just, yeah. But anyway, yeah, Hadjar, pretty good. Just needs to work on some things.
Yeah. The reason why I asked the question was because even I put Max and Isaac Hadjar in Red Bull. The reason was, ideally I would have wanted, if things work out, I would put Yuki Tsunoda in Red Bull because, look, he's spent 5 years in RB in that setup, and if there is someone that is actually even half equipped to handle the kind of situation, I'd rather see him there. But I think what's going to happen is we're probably going to see something similar to what happened with Alex Albon, where, look, and I think Red Bull has to now, they have to be very honest with themselves that you cannot build a car that is only drivable by only one driver. Other than Max, anyone can't even get a grip of it. It doesn't make sense that you keep building those cars and then expecting the other driver to actually be able to compete. It doesn't work out. And I think there's a very clear case of Gasly being a very good driver, and he'll probably do well if the car is good. Albon on the similar level. Checo was made to look worse than he is because the car was it's just ridiculous. The balance issues and the fact that they completely ignored his complaints when he'd been basically saying that there's something wrong with the car for months. I think that just shows how much everything is lent towards Max in this case. I think this is something that I think this is the philosophy that Ferrari used to have with Alonso and with Michael in the past, that every penny was towards making the lead driver the champion. And when something like this happens, the second driver tends to get ignored and tends to not bear the fruit of whatever quality Red Bull can provide. I think that's something that's going to happen with Liam as well. Because look, my worry is he's still a bit undercooked. He's not been given decent enough time to get used to Formula One. 6 races one season, 6 races another season. That's not ideal. I think that's just going to expose him a bit. Plus, I think this season the car is not going to be the best. When that happens and Max is still going to be fighting at the front, Liam is going to be probably fighting Kimi Antonelli to not be P8 out of the top 4 teams. When that happens, it's basically Checo Part 2. And by the end of the season, Red Bull is going to take the call. Because, again, Isaac Hadjar, I don't think Marco is sold on him. The interview he had, the way he pointed out the fact that even just like Yuki, again, something you pointed out, Hadjar loses the plot a lot on the team radio. He shouts a lot, and I mean, even I've seen it, I've noticed it a lot. And that is basically Yuki Part 1. That was something that held back Yuki a lot for a long time. I think that might hold back Isaac, but they don't really have an option. They're basically building Arvid Lindblad to be the next guy. And probably next season in 2026, he's going to be in Formula One. He's being bred to be the next Max. Until then, they're just going to cycle through whatever is left. Just say that we gave them the option and they failed. That's just
if they
what
want
I
the
think
next
it's going to end up.
Max, if they want the next Max, hire Freddie Slater.
That's very important.
I don't even know who that is.
I was just going to say wanker's crank, or I was going to just say wanker's cramp is a phrase I'll be using from now on. That was my important tidbit.
Not the official reasoning why he was out of Zandvoort, but you know, hey, hell, we'll just run with it.
Yeah. Next up, by the way, RB, V-Carb, RB, Minardi, whatever you want to call it, Toro Rosso.
Minardi.
Yeah.
Minardi.
So, Josh, who do you think will be at V-Carb?
Hadjar initially.
We kind of went through that.
Hadjar initially, Liam to shift into their mid-season if the whole, knee-jerk reaction thing happens. And virtual lock in that other seat will be Arvid Lindblad because they are hell-bent on getting him the super license points. They've sent him down to New Zealand to do the Formula Regional Oceania Championship to get as many super license points as they can. They got a lot of faith in Lindblad, and there's reasons for that, but I don't know,
he's not Max.
No one's Max. That's something that people need to drill into their damn heads. It's like trying to say, oh, this is the next Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. There is no next Lewis Hamilton. Maybe Kenzo Craigie, but no, there is no next one of these. There's no next Senna. There's no next Schumacher. There's no next Lewis. There's no next Max. They are just them. Look for the next, great talent. Someone who's a 5-point athlete who
Robin
can do
Raikkonen.
Everything. Maybe, but I just want to give that lad some time. I don't want to put expectations on a kid until they're into the friggin' bosom of the Mechachrome lottery.
Puberty.
So exactly. So right. Did I butt into a conversation here? I've lost track. But yeah,
nope. No.
Yes. So Hadjar and Lindblad initially. Then back to Liam and Lindblad. I don't know where where Liam's going to end up after all of this, because if Max does say, "Okay, I've had my fun. I'm now going to race GTs or whatever," Red Bull are going to need to fill the void. And if Hadjar turns out not to be the guy, and they need to fill the void as well at the Red Bull team again, then they may do the musical chairs with Liam and put him back into that team and drag Lindblad along with him. I don't know how they're going to react because they don't act, logically. They are all over the place. If they stuck to their guns, they wouldn't have been in this mess. We wouldn't have been thinking, oh, he may be undercooked. We would have known by now where Liam is. And, again, we wouldn't be in this mess. Now, just quickly getting back to the whole Red Bull thing with the car, by definition, the looser you can make a car, the faster it will be. It's just that there's a point, a crossover point of what a driver can handle. And like there are very, very, very few drivers in the world that can handle a car that is as wayward as that Red Bull could be sometimes. If even Max can't handle it, you know you fucked up.
Yeah.
So, if at that point it's just like, well, okay, the best thing to do is to find a driver whose preferences for how a car is as close to Max as you can get, a la someone who likes a car that handles like it's got rabies and will be willing to adapt if it were to not be exactly how they want it to be. Yuki kept on whinging and moaning, saying, oh, the Red Bull fits my driving style. I agree with Liam's sentiment, where it's just like, you've got to adapt. You're in Formula One, for Christ's sake. You're amongst the 20 best drivers in the world, and you can't adapt? You got to be able to, man. Like, Yuki may have deserved that shot over Liam, but things aren't always going to be perfect. You're going to have to adapt. Liam's tapped into that.
Yeah.
And if Yuki didn't, it's like, well, maybe there's more than one reason why Red Bull didn't go with him. So, yeah, they've got to find that driver who's as close to Max's style as you can get. At this moment, Liam, is he that? I don't know. And we're not going to know until, 6-7 rounds in. And maybe not even that. Very, very messy scenario. You look at the whole Red Bull, system right now with their drivers, and you look at it and you just go, oh, for fuck's sake, we would not be in this mess right now if they just managed it right. But we talk about this every damn time.
Just put Nico Hülkenberg in there. I always say that.
Yeah. We'll have great start, great end, and lull in the middle of the year. But I have been talking for way too long now. You know what I think is going to be happening at Minardi for this year, so I'll open the floor.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be Hadjar and Lawson.
2026.
2026, Hadjar and Lawson. The reason being is I think that Red Bull are going to do, kind of as this rant that Josh was just on, Red Bull are going to do Red Bull things, and essentially what's going to happen is Lawson is going to underperform, but they're going to hold out for all of 2025. Piastri is going to come in, as I said, as my left field thing. But instead of throwing Lawson out at that point, they're going to want Lawson back as a benchmark, because Tsunoda is going to be gone, to benchmark Hadjar and Lindblad properly against a known driver that they've messed around. And on top of that, the Red Bull board are going to do Red Bull board things, and they're going to say, well, we've spent all this time and money on Lawson, so we should do what we did with Gasly, which is hold him for a while, train him up a little bit more, and then try and punt him off somewhere for a few million quid, even though the smart thing to do would be bring Lindblad in, plan him up for when, or prep him for when Verstappen leaves. But Red Bull are going to do anything except the logical choice. So, yeah, Hadjar and Lawson makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a very weird lineup, because what's the future?
Don't think about the future. Red Bull doesn't. Why should you?
Touche. Yeah, I agree. Next up, by the way, Mercedes. Again, another left field choice I have. And let's see what... first of all, Josh, what do you think? Mercedes lineup.
They'll retain Antonelli and Russell. Russell to defend his championship with the team he wins it with. That's out of left field, isn't it? You want something out of left field? The freaking Jude Law clone's going to win his sole championship. Oh, how lovely. This fucking Downtown Abbey watching son of a bitch is finally going to get the championship that he so richly gets, I guess.
Blimey.
Oh, God. I mean...
Crikey.
Wow. Anyways, I have views on that. I'll get to that later. First, Jason, what's your lineup?
Look, Antonelli and Russell, at the end of the day, I just think Mercedes has enough fucking silly variables to deal with going into 2026 without changing drivers. The other thing is, no matter how Antonelli does in 2025, regardless of whether it's amazing or a shit show, I think, look, Toto's invested. And unlike teams like Haas and other kind of backmarker teams and managers and so on, and Red Bull, Toto, to give him credit, does tend to stick with a situation regardless of how awful it becomes. So I think he'll keep Antonelli there. And I think Russell will finally, hopefully, and, you know, to kind of back Josh up, you know, as we've said on this podcast, just endlessly, Russell is one of the top drivers on the grid, and is one of the only drivers on the grid, I think, who could give Verstappen a run for his money alongside Leclerc. So I think Russell hopefully will get this year to shine now, as Antonelli kind of gets to grips with Formula One. And I think that should hold him over to 2026. And personally, I just think it would be pure stupidity for Mercedes to get rid of Russell. I just don't think there's anyone they could replace him with who would be better, when they've already got like a young gun in the other car who's kind of going to...
By the way, just a reminder for both of you, Russell's contract ends at the end of the season.
Yeah, it'll be renewed.
Okay, so that's what you both think. I think the lineup is going to be Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz. I think Russell's gone.
And they let you be a journalist.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, let's talk about one thing. What's your take on what happened in Abu Dhabi, where as soon as Lewis came out of the pits, it was Toto and the entire team basically pushing Lewis, cheering him up, and basically motivating him to overtake the driver who's going to lead the team next season in Abu Dhabi.
I
if you remember,
thought it was simply you know, sending off a driver who had done them, who made them effectively. I won't read anything into that any more than any other results that happened this year, where people had these fucking weird conspiracies where they said they're holding Lewis down purposely, they're sabotaging. It's just like, get off the websites for just a moment, you melt. There's a real world out there. Go touch the damn grass. Like, there's real life out there. These conspiracies are not the thing. Seriously. Because there's quite a few times where that evidently didn't happen. Allah, right at the death, the last moments, as a Merc driver, him going to the mortal enemy next year, and they're still gravitating to him. They're still cheering him on. They're still saying, hey, look, you're one of the team. You are us. Go get the other one of us. Like, no, I don't read anything into that. It's literally just them being a team, a unit, right to the end, and help. That's all there is to it. Sometimes the explanation is as simple as that, really. Or sometimes it could be something totally different.
Look, my take on this is that Toto, look, you know, I've bashed Toto on various things over the past few years, but to give him credit for one thing, he is the guy who will kind of fall on the sword and be the team player kind of at all costs. And I think even when Lewis, who, look, again, I've given Lewis a lot of rope this year with various stuff he's done, but you know, I called him out after Las Vegas, for example. I thought what he said when he was talking to Terry Crews about, you know, I would have breezed past him. It's like, well, then fucking qualify better, as I said on that podcast. Through all of that, Toto Wolff backed him up, continued to praise what he had done for the team. And I think that show at Abu Dhabi and then backing him up was just Toto Wolff basically saying thank you for everything you've done. And I think that if he hadn't done that, you have to look at the flip side of that, which is George would kind of see it as, well, they throw their drivers under the bus even when they've done all these things for them. So I think knowing George, he will take that as, even when I give this team shit, if I perform for them, they will perform for me. And I think he'll take it that way. And I think that's what it was meant to be from Toto's side anyway. So I think, look, it was just a good way to end that partnership. And I think Lewis will probably look back on that fondly when Ferrari is replacing him mid-season with a young driver after he's had one failed attempt at a drive for something, because that's what Ferrari do. So I think he'll probably look back and go, wow, Mercedes were really great after two years at Ferrari.
Yeah, that's. I mean, a lot of fans are in for a rude awakening when it comes to how Ferrari,
Team LH
Mercedes
really are getting very hyped about Ferrari, and I think it's going to be hilarious to watch on Twitter.
Yeah,
and just a reminder,
careful
by the
what
way,
you wish for. You're excited about Ferrari and their strategies and their consistency. I got news for you, sunshine. The only way that this is going to work is if that there's a total dictatorships going on. They're on the right track because Ferrari is no longer under the control of the Italians, but they, like I said earlier on, they're probably going to function better if they've got a dungeon bitch in the second car. And Lewis won't want to be that, and Charles is incapable of being that. So great. What are you going to do there?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, just interestingly, we're coming off a season where Ferrari basically put Leclerc out on intermediate tires on a dry track, and in the very next race, he was put out on slick tires on a wet track.
And hards, by the way, not soft. Sorry. Just ridiculous.
I mean, that's Ferrari, by the way. I think the thing is, I was not even surprised. I was just looking forward to something like this happening as soon as it started to rain.
Just for anyone watching, we just need to reiterate as well. The two hosts of this show, the host and casual. I'm joking. We are, of course, massive Seb Vettel fans, and we lived through Vettel going to Ferrari. So it is just fun to watch Hamilton fans be like, "This is going to be amazing," and it's like, "Been there, mate. It's not going to be." So
yeah, you die a little inside when your favorite driver ends up at Ferrari, because those years. Oh god. Anyways, coming back to the topic, by the way, so the reason why I actually asked this question was, the thing is, throughout the 2024 season there was, and not even 2024, you can say 2023 and 2022, the theme ideally that George would have wanted was that he joins the team and slowly takes over. That's how it is supposed to be, right? But the thing is, it did not really appear to be that case. By the end of 2024, Mercedes should have been George's team. He should have been the team leader. It wasn't. Everything was still about Lewis. And next up, there's coming this 18-year-old kid, someone who's rated very highly by Toto, and I just think Toto has, at least he wants this to be his Max Verstappen, someone that actually got away from him a decade back. And he's going to, what George is going to see is that this team in the future is going to become a Kimi Antonelli team. It's not going to be a George Russell team. And most importantly, Kimi Antonelli is not, he's not going to get dominated. He's not going to get shown up. There are going to be race weekends where he's going to crash, he's going to have his issues. But that kid is quick. At least that's what I've seen for now. And when that happens, it's the writing's on the wall. When you move on, okay, you are actually optimistic that he's going to win the title this season. I'm slightly doubtful. But in 2026, he's going to see that it's better he makes the jump before he becomes the next Ricciardo. The Ricciardo of Red Bull.
So and he moves on. So just to ask, are you saying he moves on at the end of 2026 or at the end of 2025?
2025. At the end of 2025, he sees that the
who are
writing
you
is on
putting
the
in
wall.
Mercedes?
I'm putting Carlos Sainz.
Oh, right, yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Just my view. I mean, let's see. I mean, mostly it's not going to happen, but makes it fun.
Where the hell are you putting Russell then? Because there's only 3 teams left. Anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume, but anyway, we'll see.
So, what's the next team?
Haas.
Oh, wow. Josh?
Oh, go.
They'll stick with Ocon and the Bear. The Bear will eventually go over to Ferrari when the vacancy opens up. Ocon's going to be a commodity to that Haas team. Like, and I think the two complement each other in how they are. Like, you know, slightly temperamental in their forms, but when they're on it, they're on it. So, but yeah, they do seem to be the right fit for each other, Ocon and Haas. I'll be really glad to see if he can deliver them their first podium. The Bear throughout 2024, he had 3 outings. One for the Prancing Hans, and the other 2 for the Stars and Stripes. The Ferrari outing was good. It was solid. It wasn't much more beyond that, but you wouldn't expect anything else. You just wanted him to keep it out of the wall. And he did that, and he did a good job. He got points, which was, you know, pretty damn good. The 2 ones with Haas, Baku was pretty unremarkable, especially when you compare it to Colapinto, who got points, for example, in the Williams. So, but how do you shine in a Haas? Especially when you're...
Behrman got points, right?
Sorry? Did the Bear get points?
Ollie Behrman got points, right? In Baku. Yeah.
Did he get points in Baku?
In the end, I think he was P10, Hulk was P11. Yeah.
I think he was one point.
There are 2 words floating across my mind right now. Alzheimer's disease. So, I'm just... my internet's failing here. This is not doing well. Okay, let's say he did get points. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But it did feel kind of unremarkable throughout that weekend how things were going. Interlagos, the race was a disaster, but everything on the lead up to it was pretty damn promising. So, yeah, Haas have got some good prospects going into this year, and there's no reason to get rid of it next year when, you know, nobody's looking to go anywhere. They'll want to keep that and keep running with it. Unless the Toyota partnership yields something and they want to bring in either Ritomo Miyata or Ryo Hidekawa. Both of them will be pretty good, but do you need to? Really?
Yes.
Okay. I've gone very left of field here. Ocon gets kicked out at the end of 2025 or leaves at the end of 2025 because if there's one thing French people do, it's fight and lose. So Ocon will be gone at the end of the season,
too much truth
and I'm going to
Stop.
replace him. Wave the white flag of war. So I'm going to say it's Tsunoda and Behrman is who I'm going for.
Yeah.
Behrman because of the Ferrari connection and all of those different things. And obviously he's not going to be able to move to Ferrari yet until 2027 when Lewis inevitably waves the white flag of war and gives up. And then Tsunoda because I think that the partnership between... I know what you're going to say. Wait till the end. The partnership between Toyota and Haas is going to continue. They're going to want a Japanese driver in the car. However, Haas, being Gene Haas, is going to want anything but a rookie. And the only reason that they allowed Behrman in is because of the Ferrari connection. So they're going to compromise on a Japanese driver who can bring experience, which is going to be Tsunoda. And even though Toyota and Honda hate one another, they're going to overcome that, form together like the Japanese can, and go to war with some German teams and put Tsunoda in there.
Why not Kamui Kobayashi in that case?
Because I said so. There's no other reason.
Kamui Kobayashi is actually... he's part of TGR, right?
We overcame the Soviet Union and the Cold War and stuff. We will overcome Toyota and Honda.
My bladder is also waving a white flag. So, Casual, who do you think is going to be in the team?
Take over.
I will be back
you
in 60 seconds.
Yeah, okay. By the way, Josh, I actually had a question. I was very impressed with Ollie in Baku. I mean, didn't he out-qualify Nico?
Who in Baku? Oh, the bear. I don't remember.
Ollie Bear.
My long-term memory with these results is pretty good, but I can't fucking remember who won the last race. Like, I don't I don't know why I can't really remember the season's results very well. I always have to trawl back through, through Grand Prix reviews to sort of be like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened in this race. I do get criticized for talking about intangibles with the stuff, but it's like, sometimes you have to talk about intangibles. You got to see how they're doing on the track at that time. The Bear, I felt he showed potential. There's still some work to do, but like, he's in a Haas, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not much you can do, and that's why I was getting pissy with people bitching and moaning about Liam. It's like, fucking Liam's right there with Yuki. He's doing fine. Just gotta give him time. But it was compounded a bit because Franco was knocking it out of the fucking park. It's like, okay, so what is the standard for rookies? And then I started looking at Bem and I'm like, okay, well, what are you all about? And then you see him in Formula 2, where a lot of the year, not all of it, but a lot of the year, if you looked at the qualifying and the race battle with Kimi Antonelli, you're like, Jesus, either the Bear ain't the guy that we want him to be, or Kimi is the fucking man. So, like, there's a lot of things we don't really know at this stage because we're operating on a handful of races in Formula 1 and a Mechachrome lottery in Formula 2. So, yeah.
True.
That's. I guess that's the whole thing about these predictions.
I'm honestly done with Formula 2.
Who isn't? Who isn't? It was such a great. It was such a great series.
Yeah, it's
and
utter fucking
loved
nonsense.
it. Yeah, I loved that series more than Formula 1 at times because it was so damn good, and they just fucking ruined it with these new cars and stuff. And I know behind the scenes that people are pissed off with Bruno Michel, with not wanting to do things, not wanting to sort out the issues with the car, not just the engine, the car as a whole. They will not put in power steering, even though Formula 1 has it in the F3 or F2 cars, thereby prohibiting female drivers from getting in. I think, was it Chadwick was doing F2 testing at Silverstone and went through cops, and the steering was so heavy, it jolted it out of her hand in the middle of cops.
Yeah.
And it's just like, put in the power steering. It's like, oh, we can't be bothered. It's like, Formula 1 has it, for fuck's sake. Put it in there. This is ridiculous. The cars are boats. Super Formula is much more in line with what you would get in Formula 1. It's a fucking travesty. And all the while, you then go, okay, there are people who clearly have better engines. Antonelli had DRS going down the Hemel Straight behind Cordeal.
Yeah.
And Cordeal was running away.
Joshua Dugson.
Yeah,
even that.
And the thing is that these people with the better engines, it's just like, you don't want to be mean because some of them are good, But the problem is, it's like, who's where? Now all of a sudden you don't know where they are, and they're going into Formula 1 based on a lottery. And that's the thing about Bortoletto, for example.
Basically, vibes, honestly.
Yeah. And that's the thing about Bortoletto, is like, he's good. He's good. But it was his consistency that won out the F3 and F2 titles. And people are jumping on the bandwagon saying, oh, he's the next big thing. It's like, did you fucking watch the seasons? Like, I understand you want to jump on the gravy train and say, oh, I knew about him. The same way that you said, oh, Colapinto, he's really good. Yeah, who was saying this for 4 years? Like, I'm not saying you should know by looking at a driver how they're going to be, but just take the time to watch the races, see how they do comparatively to their teammates. And people have lost that. They think that it's all based on results because by nature, spec series are equal, but they're fucking not. And Formula 2 has proven that. The last few seasons. And again, nobody knows where anyone is. And some of these champions are being thrust into the game and they're drowning. And everyone's like, oh, why is this happening? It's like, why do you fucking think? Why do you think? No, I'm so fucking annoyed with Formula 2, and I'm not going to shy away from that. They fucking
decided the championship
and I'm going to continue watching the fucking series because I am a klutz like that, where I continue to beat myself in the head repeatedly, despite knowing the damn thing's a farce. It's $3 million on a total chance of a championship. So who are we talking about again? Haas.
Yeah.
Haas. Who did you put as
I'm yet to say that.
Oh, sorry.
I actually asked that because I thought Oli was quite impressive in Baku. So we went through that. Okay. And then a complete detour. Apparently.
That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, who I'm putting in Haas, I mean, again, I'm keeping Esteban Ocon. I think he'll stay. I think he'll probably have a longer stint.
Just
at
move
Haas.
to France already.
He is there, right?
No, you.
Me?
Yeah.
If they offer me a visa or a PR, permanent residence, I'll go.
Just go illegally like the rest of the world does.
It's not fun. Right? I mean, remember I told you earlier, India is good for certain people.
I have explained this on the podcast over and over again. No one respects the borders of France. Look at all of history. Don't worry about it. Just go.
I mean, I told you, right? India is fun for a certain category of
Just
people.
give me your damn picks.
Yeah. Anyways, so again, in keeping Esteban Ocon, the second driver I'm putting Ritom Miata. I think he'll get, because Oli is going to Ferrari, in my view, and I think Toyota is going to increase influence year by year, probably by 2028 or something, just like Cadillac getting their own PU. I think Toyota will come into the series in some form of the other, probably more as an engineering unit, not as a power unit or something. Let's see. At least the reason why Miata has been in Formula 2 for another season, I think he'll be in Formula 2 this year as well. It's precisely to get him acclimatized with the European tracks and just get him in that particular zone. So probably if something turns up, they're going to put him there. So that's what I think. I think more or less that's what I'm expecting.
Okay. So I guess
what's next?
Next is Aston, which I assume you have changed, is my guess. But anyway, if you want, I'll just quickly give mine because it's boring. I've gone with Joffrey Baratheon, also known as Stroll. Basically a kid who is in a team that could potentially be fighting for the title, who has no rights to be there, other than the fact that his dad...
name is on the door.
Yeah, other than the fact that his dad put sperm in somewhere and now he exists. So I think Stroll's going to stay there, and I think Alonso is not going to leave that team with Nui there for 2026. Like, you would have to shoot him in the face with a gun, by the way, not sperm, for him to leave that team. So I think it's going to be Stroll and Alonso.
Yeah. Josh?
Josh's face.
You said a lot of words there, Jason. And I thought I was the biggest cackhead this morning. Jesu, joy of man's desiring. Maybe we really are overdue for an extinction event as a species. We have gone too fucking far. Oh, yeah. First France, and now what you said.
100%.
Okay, so Aston Martin, Yuki Tsunoda to appease Honda, and I don't need to say what the second drive's going to be, don't I? Like, fucking send Lance to WEC already. Send Lance to WEC. He's got good skills to warrant being in there. You know, not all of them, but, you know, if I was going to make a hypercar team, I would put him in there alongside Brendan Hartley, who, ironically, I also said didn't belong within 500 yards of a friggin' Formula 1 car. Some dudes are just not built for Formula 1. And, you know, people will say, oh, Lance won F4 and Formula 3. I am not going to go into, again, how he managed to win those series. All you need to know is that 25 million was spent on the junior career alone To start off his car racing career, Lawrence flew in 16 Formula baths into fucking Miami to run a non-championship championship, where, if you counted the results, he was toward the bottom end of the championship. And after that day forward, the Florida Winter Series was never a thing again. God knows where those Formula baths are. They're probably gone where every other neglected thing in Florida goes to, which is the Everglades. So somewhere out there right now, there's a Formula bath and some freaking python or alligator. But he did that. He made a total non-championship just for his son to prep him. Then he brought in these drivers who had no funding but good teaching abilities to, help build his confidence, build his driving prowess, all that stuff. Even in Formula One, they drafted him fucking Montoya to do this stuff. And now chickens are coming home to roost, where it's like, fake it till you make it. Lance may not be that bad, but this is the big dance. You got to be able to friggin' jive without all that help that you had before. And we have got Felipe Drugovich and Franco Colapinto on the sidelines this year, despite proving their worth. And this guy has been given chance after chance after chance after chance. I haven't seen anyone this pampered in a long friggin' time. And, at some point, when are you going to pull the plug on this stuff? It's got to be now, for God's sake. Put him in WEC, win the World Championship there, affirm your driver lineup in Formula One with 2 bulletproof drivers, and with the power of Adrian Newey, wind tunnels, money, and love, or whatever you want to, throw into the equation, win the championship there with the appropriate stuff. You're not going to do it with a guy who you keep on saying over and over again, oh, he's not that bad. Oh, he's good at feedback. He has not been bad for 7 years now. And this technical feedback, if you are relying on him for technical feedback, how do you fucking explain the car going backwards in development over the course of the year? Start off with a great car and then it ends crap. And we're talking about him being a rainmaster. Ever since Turkey 2020, when has he been good in the rain? When was the last time he was good in the rain since Turkey 2020? Is he a rainmaster? Really? After all?
I mean,
I said,
to be fair, for a lot before pre-2024, we were saying this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, big delays in the audio here. Oh my god. Okay, I'll continue. I'll continue talking now. I'll talk now. Yeah. Is there anything else to talk about? Really? I feel like I've just raged out. I've done what that other guy does to a lesser extent. Nah, there's nothing else that we can really say at this point. Because we've all said it. Everyone's said it. No one in the circles of Formula One media will say it, because to protect their integrity of themselves, the publication, and it also seems to be, just
access, by the way.
Access as well, yeah. In the same way that you also couldn't back in 2021, you couldn't also say in that time that Nikita Mazepin was a complete, utter piece of fucking shit, who, by the way, I really do wish you find time to rot in a jail cell for beating a woman again, you prick. But again, they wouldn't say that either.
He did what?
Yep. Apparently,
just recent news where Mazepin abused a woman again. But again, back in the first time this kind of happened,
Jesus.
As soon as the slightest bit of reform happened, it's like, oh, shrug it off. Oh, look, he's a nice guy. All that stuff. It's like, really want that access, don't you? I suppose that's the benefit of being a cacketed YouTuber on here. It's like, I can be a bit more honest about these people.
Yeah,
so,
precisely.
Yeah. So, long and short of it, my tangents, there are going to be people watching this like, what the fuck is he on about? He's This guy's swearing off the chain, trying to speak
Make a good
English,
clip.
and trying to be cognizant about any of this. No, like
that's most of our podcast, by the way.
Well, hey, look, this is why I don't do a podcast, folks. This is also why I'm trying to get some sleep in my life, because being up for 30 hours and doing this sort of stuff, what you end up getting is this. So, long and short of it, Yuki Tsunoda to appease Honda, Lance Stroll to appease Lawrence. And we will continue to get that up until a point where Lawrence wants to pull the plug.
Wait, what?
I knew that was coming, and I'm so happy. I knew that rant would end with, "Oh yeah, but Lance still stays there." By the way, I knew it, and I love it. Don't ever change. Amazing.
Yeah, forgive me for being a bit angry about this whole thing, but it's just like, oh my god. I mean, I tried to be nice. I tried to give him time, but
wait, Josh, you're saying Lance will still be in Aston Martin?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what he's saying.
In the same way that the drones will still
Fucking
fly.
hell.
No, sorry.
Jesus fuck.
I know. Share the pain with the rest of us. Nepotism.
Oh god.
So basically, to summarize, Nikita Mazepin's a cunt, and Lance Stroll doesn't deserve an F1 seat, but the world doesn't work fairly, so he's going to stay there.
But probably in 2026, both of them will be on the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's a possibility. High-tech GP, right? Anyways, so I think Aston Martin is probably going to go with... Josh, are you okay? he keeps holding his head.
You just reminded me again of the fact that High-Tech is still owned by Dmitry Mazepin. And that Ollie Oakes has got a big stake in High-Tech as well. And at the moment that Alpine brought him on, it's just like, oh, here we go. The Kremlin is back on the grid.
I'm sorry, but just can I just point out one thing real quick? If that happens, can you imagine we will be in an era where we will have Mazepin, Stroll, Flavio Briatore, all part of Formula One again, with Pat Simmons running the tech for an F1 team. At that point, can we not just fucking bring back Bernie Eccleston and just go all in?
I'll raise you one better than that. Pyongyang Street Circuit hosts the North Korean Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet, the Grand Marshal.
Fabulous.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome?
Amazing.
Let's go back to Sochi as well. Anyways, let's not. The track sucked.
Who's your pick? Who's your pick anyway?
Yeah. What were we talking about, by the way? Oh, yeah.
You were about to put George Russell in Aston Martin.
Again, whatever Josh said, I tend to agree with it, and I think finally, sanity is going to prevail at Aston Martin, and I think he's going to go to WEC.
That's not what Josh said.
I know, but the rest of the bit. But basically, look, it's been 7-8 years. Every year, what Lance does is he wakes up, does one strong weekend just to remind everyone that he can drive, and then there are 20 weekends basically where he just
no. Oi,
that's his.
Not one, it's two. There's 2 good weekends.
Okay, 2.
Oh, no, pretty accurate, yeah.
Okay, apologies. 2.
All during the maple syrup harvest.
Yeah, that's the shit part. The thing is, for 7-8 years he's been that. There's no improvement, nothing, and you listen to his interviews, he sounds disinterested right now. And the thing is, after a point, it's almost child abuse right now, isn't it?
That's just his accent.
Lawrence first puts. Don't you think it's first he puts a 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel in the same car? Again, that fares decently, not a big issue. Then he puts Fernando Alonso next to him. I mean, which teammate has actually, other than Lewis probably, has fared well against Alonso?
In fairness, he's just learning from the Verstappen school of parenting. Leave him alone.
Yeah, I mean, but he should have done it 10 years earlier, right? This doesn't work. Look, if Lawrence Stroll wants... He wants a son who can be a world champion. He should hold on to this team. make a new baby, hand it over to Jos Verstappen, let him do the abusive bit, bring him over after 8 years, and then start from there. Because this project has already failed, and I hope sanity prevails. Anyways, I think Lance, after this season, after 2025, he's going to fuck off to WEC. Because I think that is one of the reasons why they're actually creating their program. He'll be gone. And then I think it will be Fernando Alonso and George Russell at Aston Martin for 2026. That's where George will move to.
I could see that.
That's
I could see that.
I would, yeah. I would love to have your optimism, and I can understand why you have this optimism after the Indian election went exact. Never mind. Yeah. So I would love to have that optimism, but Lance will stay. Unfortunately, I'm just hoping that Alonso stays as well, because as long as Alonso is there, I can kind of disregard the human turd in the other seat. I can deal with it. As long as Alonso is there, I can deal with it.
Oh, God. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Aston Martin, a lot of Lance Stroll.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
last and certainly least is Alpine.
Oh, God. Or should we call it high-tech?
That's what I was going to say. I've got it as high-tech Alpine, Deadpool, F1 GP, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Anthony Joshua and who else? I mean, there are 2-3 other celebs. Josh, who do you have at Alpine? I think you kind of spoke about it a bit, right?
Yeah, kind of alluded to it. So Pierre Gasly, because don't need to get rid of him. He's doing... Second half of that season was pretty damn strong for Gasly. And in that second seat, I don't know. Like, it depends upon what they do this year. Doohan's not going to be in there because they seem desperate to get rid of him. I kind of see Colapinto being in there because it seems that...
I don't get it.
It seems that Flavio's got a rod on for freaking Franco's. I mean, I understand, but it's like, whoa, okay. Why did you not sign him in the first place then? But at the same time, Paul Aaron's waiting in the wings, even though I personally don't rate Aaron as highly as others, because I thought Aaron rode off of a wave of early momentum in the F2 Championship and sort of floundered after that. So either one of those two, they do have options, but ultimately it seems that Flav is more leaning toward Colapinto here. I think, I can't see Doohan rescuing it because it seems from the outside looking in that they kind of really want to get rid of him already. So, yeah. And of course, they'll want to continue this into the next year. If Williams can't offload Albon or Sainz, or they can't get Franco back, then Alpine will be only too happy to continue having this lineup into 2026. So, yeah, Gasly and Colapinto for 2026, although something's telling me that Colapinto being in there is not what's going to happen. Like, I don't know, for me, this is just putting in pieces.
Nothing good.
I'm not seeing this happen, though.
Yeah. Jason?
I have gone with Gasly for the French connection and Alpine. I do think Alpine, just from a cash point of view, will stick their badge on the car still, especially because it's going to be Mercedes powered, the Alpine is Renault powered, doesn't matter. And then in the other seat, I'm going to say Paul Aaron. It's going to be their transition year. It'll be Alpine high tech, and then in 2027 it'll be some other form of high tech with someone else who'll put in cash for the other part. So yeah, I'm going to say Gasly and Paul Aaron in 2026. Is it a good lineup? No, but then Alpine's not a good team, so fuck it.
Yeah, I kind of went with the same one. I think it's going to be... I think it might happen this season already. Jack Doohan is not a bad driver. I can't believe what's going on with him. He's decent. He had a decent run in both Formula 3 and Formula 2, but the way he's been basically kicked around, I am a bit surprised. But that's Alpine being Alpine, Flavio being Flavio.
On the plus side, I mean, it could be Gasly and Mazepin, so let's hope that doesn't happen. That would be worse.
Oh, yeah. So, Paul Aaron, I think Paul Aaron probably takes over 5 races in the season. Yeah.
Oh, you think
astounding.
in 2025 he takes over?
Yeah, I think he's going to take over this. Apparently, there are rumors that Doohan has a 5-race contract, whatever that means. I mean, and by the way, just to think of it, Jack Doohan is son of Mick Doohan, who is basically the GOAT of MotoGP. Basically, Jack is getting the treatment that Mick Schumacher did with Haas, probably worse. And yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit bad for him. Probably because I'm a big fan of Mick Doohan, not because I'm a big fan of Jack. But yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to be. It's going to be Paul Aaron and Pierre Gasly. It's going to be, probably by the end of this season, it's going to be high-tech GP. And then next season, it's going to be painted grey and have a Mercedes engine, probably a second grey car on the grid. But yeah, that's, I think, where it's going to end up.
Do you think they'll win a race due to a cleverly timed safety car in 2025? Or to jack
Depends how flexible Paul is.
God, I love Flavio being back. Feels like the old days.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, the new kids don't even know about it, right?
Yeah.
They're still getting used to it.
Flavio's a legend who was a 2-time convicted felon. Well, not felon. It's not the right word for it, but you know what I mean. 2-time convict before he took over the Benetton team and won some championships, and will forever live on as a legend of our sport. Bring back Bernie. Bring back Max Mosley from the dead. Bring back, lots of people. God,
True. I think we're done. We're done with all 10 drivers, 10 teams. Yeah. That was fun. We kind of did it in the 2-hour period this time around.
Just
so
under.
Good job.
Yeah. And I genuinely, all praise to Josh for staying awake at such an ungodly hour in the morning after working for 30 hours.
Ungodly hour of 8 a.m. No, it's just just my fucking sleep cycles all over the place. Like, yeah, and I can't recover it because I constantly have to keep on, shooting out these vids. Meanwhile, these fucking AI channels are beating me out. It's just like, oh my god, they can't pronounce Europe right, but they can get them out fast.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've reached out to AI, but it won't come on our podcast, so we're stuck with you for now, Josh. Unfortunately, it's just...
Oh, well.
As a voice of F1.
I'm glad that you invited the dinosaurs on to this one, mate.
I will, by the way, put a link to Josh's channel, but I would be very, very surprised if any F1 fan watching this hasn't already subscribed.
I think the question should be,
if
Josh,
they've gotten to this part of the fucking episode by now, they're going to be like, I'm not subbing to this Neanderthal.
His videos are very good.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they're not rushed to the hills, sometimes they're pretty damn good. Although that sometimes sort of ran out a few years ago. Oh, the Le Mans video that I got planned, they'll be worth watching.
I have to admit, the first time I saw you on a podcast, I was like, oh, that's his actual voice. I was watching your videos for a long time, and I was like, that must be altered or something. Cause it's a very good voice.
Initially, yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, that's his real voice.
I mean, slightly feels
born
out.
To do something like this.
You can't hear the computer whizzing its head off like a friggin' DC-10 stolen in the damn air. But it still kind of is what it is, I guess. Yeah, I was born with this, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
It's that
I've reached my mental
voice,
capacity at this point. I am very sorry for being uncognizant, but I do thank you for inviting me on the podcast. It's been awesome, and let me know whenever you want. Whenever you need someone to ramble on about Lance Stroll or Formula 2 or France. Again, I love it.
Yeah, every time. We'll
Thank you, everybody. Be sure to subscribe, and please, if you haven't already, unbelievably, please do check out Josh's channel. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Casual.
By the way, if any of you are actually Josh's subscribers or something, hit the subscribe button here.
Take it from me, guys.
Yeah.
These two guys, they're pretty all right. So give them a sub, a like, a comment. In that order or otherwise, but it's always a good,
Yeah.
always a good watch, always a good listen, whatever you're doing, and just give them a chance. They're not AI. They're actually. Are you guys real? No, fuck it. I'll just say you are. No,
Not sure anymore,
give them a
to be
chance
honest.
because there's not too many real people online on YouTube nowadays, especially not friggin' real people who know the sport very well. These two guys do know it very well. So give them a sub, give them a like from me, please. And yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
As an Irish person, I don't know how to take compliments, so I'll just say thanks, and we'll end the podcast there. Don't forget to
I
subscribe.
like your
as well.
potatoes, not your
Take it
Guinness
easy.
so much. Especially not your rugby team.
Take it easy, everybody.